Personal finance is one of those topics that isn't talked about much and isn't taught either. School curriculum doesn't feel that they have a necessity or the need to actually teach, young kids and young adults about this. So it's expected to be taught at home. So from here, you always get the interpretation of, how am I supposed to learn it? What if you go to your house and your parent or guardian isn't financial literate, or they don't know about personal finance as well? How are you really supposed to learn about it? How are you supposed to grow up and be a young adult and be financially stable if you were never taught? Today we're going to go over a few things to financially literate yourself so you don't have to be stuck in that hole. First thing is that we're going to go over is saving money, which is probably the biggest thing and the most important thing on this list. I say this is the most important aspect of this whole list is if you're working and you don't save money, you have nothing left over. So if you're making $100,000 a year and you're spending $100,000, you're never going to be able to save anything if you're using it all. So saving money is a key aspect to being able to become financially literate. Very important to learn saving early on because this allows you to develop that mindset to be able to take that money from your check or wherever your income is coming from and throw it to the side. And the biggest thing about saving is a lot of this money is going to be used to develop an emergency fund. An emergency fund is just a fund that you use basically to cover unknown expenses as far as losing your job, home repairs, car repairs, just anything that could just pop up at a random time. This is what an emergency fund is used for. So this would be something that you would keep in mind when you are saving. Rules for saving money, all of them are considered beneficial. Some people don't save as much and some people save almost all their check. But there is also a rule out there. It's called the 50-30-20 rule, which allows you, it's a rule that you can use to save money. You don't necessarily have to use that rule. You can save on your earned terms, but you want to make sure that you're saving, no matter if it's paycheck to paycheck or month to month, you want to make sure you're saving something. That's the start of financial literacy. On this list is budgeting. Think of budgeting, everyone just thinks of the common definition term. They don't think of it, it's more explicit than what it is. They just look at the bottom line, the basics of it. But if you could take budgeting and look at it into a different aspect, and what I mean by this is not just looking at it as I'm gonna take the money that I need for my bills and for my necessities, and then the rest over, what's left over is just all I'm gonna have. If you can get rid of that type of mindset and look at the mindset as I'm gonna take money out and invest into myself. So for example, instead of you just saying I'm gonna just use this money, I'm gonna pay my bills, I'm gonna pay my car note and pay my mortgage, I'm gonna pay all this stuff. Instead of just doing that, you say I'm gonna take money out for myself and use this to invest into appreciating assets or even your own type of business or anything like that. So instead of just looking at budgeting as a low language term where it's just like, yeah, I just take this money out, I just use it on my bills, and then whatever's left is left. Stop thinking of budgeting as just a normal concept. Think of it more explicit. Say, so the money that you have left over, I'm gonna use this money to invest into something else to be able to grow myself to be better. Instead of doing the most common budgeting and saying, oh, I'm gonna pay my bills and whatever I have left over is all I have, do what the wealthy do. Take money out for yourself first and then pay your bills, and then whatever left over is left over. But you'll always have that in your mind that I took this money out before I basically paying yourself first. I paid myself first before I paid my bills. And with this money, you'll use that money in order to grow yourself. So you took that money out and now you use that money to go invest it into something that is going to appreciate, an asset or anything like that. On this list, obviously, it's going to be investing. One of the biggest things that's talked about all around, but like I said again, it isn't taught in school or by anybody else, is how are you going to learn about this? Investing is a very complex thing, and if it's not used in the right manner, you could definitely lose money on it. But if it's taught to the right T, you could definitely make exponential money on this, and you could definitely grow your portfolio and retire yourself over time. The thing about investing is knowing exactly how to invest. A lot of people aren't sure how to invest, and again, they're not sure what they need to invest in order to grow. So if you don't know how to set up your portfolio, how are you really going to make money from this? And again, if you're not taught this, how exactly are you going to even do it from the start? Or what is it going to take for this to, just pop up and say, let me start, if it's not taught? Because, a lot of people aren't financially literate. So if they're not financially literate, they're not going to be able to just say, I can invest. Or if anyone tells them about it, they're going to second guess or take it as a scam or something, to downplay themselves. So the question is, how do I really get started with that? So investing, like I said before, investing brings you money by giving you either dividend income or capital appreciation. But the best thing about investing is you can dollar cost average it, meaning you can put in a set amount, every week, or however you invest your money, you can put in a set amount every week or every month or every year, how much, whatever you decide to do, you can put that money in consistently like that. So that way your dollar cost average up to the total of what you're buying. So for example, if you're buying into an ETF, which the most common one that I always use is the S&P 500 VU. If you're buying into that right now, is around 378 or 379. If your dollar cost averaging that, say you're just doing $50, we'll say $50 a week, because that's a more lenient, approach to it. So if you're doing $50 a week, there's 4 weeks in a month, so you're investing $200 a month. So by around about 2 months, you'll be able to get one share of VU or the S&P 500 ETF. If you're investing like that, you'll be able to dollar cost average it along 2 months without, taking away from a large sum of your income. Because this will be part of that money, like I said, from budgeting, where you're paying yourself first. And that money that you're paying yourself is going to be that money that you use to invest into yourself so that you can grow. And like I said, it's always better to invest starting earlier. You don't want to wait. So there is no perfect time to invest. A lot of people think that there's a perfect time to invest. I should wait till I'm this age. I should wait till the market does this, or I should wait till the market does that. But there really is no right time. It's really the best time to do it is now. Start now, because the biggest thing that makes people money from investing is interest. And on top of interest, you get compound interest, which is just you making money off of the interest that's getting accumulated over time. So if you were to wait till you're 40 years old to start investing and you wanted to stop at 50, you're only getting 10 years worth of interest, and then you're getting, that 10 years of compound interest. But imagine if you were to do this from when you're 30, 30, and then you do it to 50, you're getting 20 years. So you're getting 20 years of interest on top of what you're investing. And then on top of everything else that you're investing is compounding on top of each other. So if you do this, you're guaranteed to make more money because you're letting your money sit for a longer period of time than a shorter period of time. The gains on it are going to be, very much different because you let your money sit for longer. It's the same thing as if you put in, a savings account, a bond, any other appreciating assets or assets that give you a return back. It's going to be the same thing. And the only difference between this, investing into yourself with all of these is they have different yields or returns, meaning they have different reward ratios to your returns. So some of them, the percentages can be low, and like I said, some of them can be high. It just all depends on what you invest your money into. But investing is definitely the goal to get you to the place that you want to be, so you don't have to, be working all the time, or you don't have to, say I'm gonna have to do this, I don't have enough money for this. Investing will put you in a place where your money will be appreciated. It will be growing, and you'll also be able to develop a source of passive income along the way as you're doing it. Investing can be tricky. It's not a straightforward method to it. Everyone has a different method and a different way to go around it, depending on, your risks and how you want to invest, what you want to invest in, things you like, the companies that you feel will go up, and then also there's a lot of different ETFs and index funds and, CDs, bonds, securities. There's a lot of different stuff that you can invest in. Like there's thousands that you can invest in. So the choice is really up to you, but just make sure that you do your research on it before, you invest into anything, because you don't want to invest into something you don't know about. The biggest thing about investing though is it is beneficial to your long-term growth. So that's how you should look at it. You shouldn't look at it as a get-rich-quick scheme, or that you're going to make money in literally a day or 3 days. It's long-term growth. Some people, they don't want to wait, and I understand that. But when it comes down to investing, it's more of long-term growth again. It's not, a quick scheme. There is a thing of short-term investing, but even with that still takes months of time to get that. So it's still not I'm gonna just hop in, I'm gonna get this money and I'm gonna hop out. It's not how it is. So investing is more of long-term growth, you building yourself over time. But the only thing with this is you have to invest money consistently over time. So average, if you're investing, around $500 a month, and you're doing that every year, you're gonna see your money keep accumulating every year. But if you're investing $5, a month, doing that for every year, you're going to see the money grow, but it's going to grow at a way slower rate than if you're investing $500 versus, $60 a month. There'll be a big difference in the amount of money that, you see on your return based on how much compounds and how much interest is gained on it. It's going to be a difference because you're investing more. But if you can stick to this, a designated plan to where you're investing the same amount every month, it's nothing too low, it's not too high for you, but you can invest that same amount every month, you're going to see your money grow over time. And if you start early again, you're going to get that interest on top of that compound interest that you're going to get from it just sitting there. So if you start early again, you're going to make more money than if you start later. So the best time really to start is now. The big one on this list that people definitely aren't taught right about, that I've noticed a lot, is credit. People don't really realize how important credit is until they don't have it, or until they can't use it. So the biggest thing about credit is, for one, it's always going to be your score. Your score dictates, how you represent yourself. So if you have bad credit, of course, you're not going to be able to get some stuff, or you're going to get high interest rates on things. Versus when you get good credit, you get approved for a lot, you have lower interest rates. That's just the common pet peeves of credit, but that's just the surface line of what is, what they tell you about it. Again, they don't talk about this stuff in school, so how are you going to learn about it? So the biggest thing about credit that a lot of people need to know is, when you look at credit, how do you look at it? Do you look at it as just a tool, when you don't have money, or do you look at it as an asset to be able to use their money to your advantage? You can do a lot of different things with credits. You can use it to your advantage, but you can also put yourself in a deep hole. To use it right and use it safely, it could be a great tool or a great asset to you. Just have to know how to use it in the right manner. So a big thing with credit that people, like I said, they misuse it. So when you're misusing credit, it's not beneficial, and you look at it as a tear down and a bad, you look at it as a bad asset to you because you don't know how to use it. But most of these wealthy people, rich people that are financially stable use credit cards. And the only reason behind using this credit card is you don't have to use your own money. Yes, you are paying it back, but at the same time, you don't have to use your own money. You're using borrowed money and paying it back over time. So with this, for example, say you use your credit card and you spend $250, maybe $500 over the next 2 weeks, right? That $500 that you use, you don't have to pay that back to the end of the month. So over time, you're still getting paid in the process. So paid bi-weekly or weekly, whichever one it is, you're gonna get paid 2 checks before you even have to pay that money back. So look at it as this: you're using borrowed money that you're paying back over time, and it's not gonna gain any interest if you pay it back on time. So you're using borrowed money from someone else to pay for all your expenses, and you don't have to take anything out of your account, right? So it's, there's a downside to it if you don't pay it back, but there's really no downside. You're using borrowed money. You're using someone else's money to pay for your purchases, and you just pay it back the same amount. So like I said, the benefit of this is you're making more money before you even have to pay it back. Versus if you were to be using a debit card, you're using your personal money, and you're going to be using money from your checks, and you're going to be using that basically every week of your weekly, or every 2 weeks of your bi-weekly. So any of the money that you don't have anymore is gone. But again, if you have a credit card and use it respectfully in the way it's supposed to be used, a lot of these problems won't arise. The biggest problem with the credit card is people tend to go buy things that they know they wouldn't be able to afford if they didn't have a credit card. And that's the worst mistake you can have, because when they do that, basically they max out their credit card and now they can't pay a bill back. What they do to get people, to make money off of people, is they allow people to do that, right? And then they'll get you with the thing where you can pay a minimum payment. So say you spend $1,000, and then they'll say, yeah, we just need you to pay a minimum payment of $100, by this date, and you'll be fine. You can continue spending. But when you have a carryover balance, that's when you start paying interest on that card. So whatever balance is left over, you start paying interest on it. So if you have $1,000 in there and your credit card is at 12 or 13% interest, after that month, that's another $120 or $130 added onto your bill of interest. So that's something you want to avoid. So you shouldn't be out here buying things that you wouldn't be able to afford if you didn't have a credit card. You want to keep it inside of things as far as like necessities, as necessities. You can buy once, of course, because like food and stuff, like, eating out and stuff like that, you can still buy stuff like that, because you should still be able to, live, within, you should still be able to get what you want, but still be able to live within your means. So that's something you should, take into consideration when you are using your car, is one, to really just not go out here and just buy, stuff that you wouldn't be able to buy if you just had regular money. That's really the biggest thing of why people get maxed, can't use credit cards, or they're in debt because of that. So just for one, with the credit cards, if you do get approved for one, no matter if it's secured or unsecured, is you want to make sure that you're paying that balance back in full, not in minimum payments, because you're going to build interest and you don't want that. You want to pay that back in full, and you want to make sure that you're on time with your payments as well. So the biggest thing with using a credit card for all your purchases, like I'm saying right now, is not only are you using borrowed money, but at the same time you're using borrowed money for one, and on two, you're building your credit score at the same time. So those are two good things that you are benefiting from just using a credit card. And number three, you don't have to use your own personal money from it. So that's that's always a plus. Of course, you have to pay it back, but it's better than you saying you make a $200 purchase, for example, and you have to use your own money. You're going to be out of $200 for that, that whole week if you're getting paid weekly, or the rest of those 2 weeks if you're getting paid bi-weekly. You're going to be out $200, versus if you made that $200 with that credit card, just got to make sure you pay that $200 back at the end of the month. So it's a an upside to it, it's a downside to it. Again, you have to choose whether you're going to be on the upside or the downside. It all comes to, decisions, and the decisions aren't really hard. You know what you need and you know what you don't need, and you know what you can afford and you know what you can't afford. So those are things you definitely should take into consideration before you're using that credit card for just, random spending or, impulse spending, which is the biggest one. You don't want to just impulsively buy anything and then max out your credit card. Now you can't pay it back, or you're doing minimum payments and interest just keeps stacking up, because the same way interest works on investing, it works on a credit card. So if you have $1,000 balance and you're only paying a minimum payment, so we're going to say after 1 month you have that 13% interest and you pay $100. So now, they're applying that interest to it. It's going to go right back to basically $1,000 payment. Even if you're paying $100, the balance is never going to go down if you're only paying $100. Even if you do pay it every month, the interest is calculated on to making sure that you cannot catch up on that balance. So you're always going to have to pay more than the minimum balance in order to get your balance back down. For those of you who have credit cards, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about when they want to make you pay the minimum balance, but you have an interest amount that's going to, even if you pay that balance, it's going to carry back over and it's going to make you, build right back up to the balance you were just at. So that's something you definitely want to avoid with credit, but it can definitely be beneficial. You can build your credit, you can build your credit history, and you can be looked at as, a respectful buyer, someone, they'll just look at you as a respectful person when it comes down to money because your credit history and your credit score. So that's plays a big part in our society right now. So it's just something, that you want to keep, up to a par. You don't want to have a low credit score. You don't want to have missed payments, late payments, repossessions, any type of fees on your account. Like, that's something you want to avoid. But on the upside, you definitely can use it to build your credit, get approved for lots of loans, home loans, car loans, and all those type of things. On this list, it's probably the common one that everyone wants to do is making money. Everyone wants to make money. It's just natural. We have to pay bills. We have to do this. We have to do that. And people want to go on vacations. They want to buy nice things. But in order to do this, you have to make money. That's everybody, right? So you're probably wondering, like, why is this on the list? Or why is this on the list? Like, everybody makes money. So the only reason this is on this list is because everybody does make money. That is correct. Someone has some type of job, they have some type of income that they're using in order to make money. But the biggest thing that isn't taught about personal finance with making money is that you're working for somebody else to make it. If you want to be, a millionaire, or you want to be wealthy, any of these type of things, you're not going to be able to get that from working for somebody else. And the only reason that you're not going to be able to do this is because of the caps. Every career path has its designated cap. The only way you would be able to do this is if you're like a CEO, or you're in some high top corporate position where you're making, almost $500,000 or $250,000 or millions of dollars. In that perspective, you would be able to, financially be able to be okay because you're making enough money to do so. But your average person that's going to their career path, like I said, everybody has a cap on how much they can make, or they have to do a lot of other things to make the money. So if you want to be a millionaire in those type of professions, how long is it going to take you? And on average, for those type of things, on those type of career paths to really make $1 million, it's taking everyone between 10, 20, 30 years to even see that, if they even see that. So if it's taking you that long, you should ask yourself, what is really going to make me $1 million? How do I make $1 million? It's a simple answer for it. It doesn't take much to become a millionaire. Yes, it takes time. It's always going to take time. But it doesn't take much aside from that to become a millionaire. Multiple different avenues that you can take to get there. I always talk about investing, and I know that you've probably heard investing from other people, but investing alone can get you to a millionaire. Yes, it's going to take time. It doesn't come fast. I can tell you that much. There are different avenues. Like I said, you can always start a business, which is one of the number one things that a lot of people do to start making a lot of money like that. If you get a successful business, that's like, I'm not going to say it's a guarantee, but if you have a successful business, you're going to be making a lot of money a year. You're going to be making a lot of money a year. So you're going to be on road to becoming a millionaire, within 3 to 5 years if you have a successful business. Because most, successful businesses are making well over 100K. So if you're making 100K, just 100K flat a year for, the next 10 years, that's $1 million. Or if you're making 200 the next 5 years, you're going to be a millionaire. So that's just like a simple way with a business. And I'm not saying you can just go out here and open a business and it's going to be up and running 30 days and be successful. No, I'm not saying that. But if you do have a successful business and it does, get up and running, within a couple months, maybe a year or two, and it's bringing in that, residual income that you were looking for, you can be a millionaire. The second way to do it is to invest your money. So investing your money, like I said, you build interest over time, and you also build that compound interest so that it's growing continuously over time on top of the interest, and it just keeps growing and growing until you finally reach that. But that all depends on how much money that you are investing into it. But you're not going to be able to get this if you're working a 9-to-5. And the only reason this is like I said, most 9-to-5s aren't paying that much. So if the average, in America, if the average person in America right now is only making average around 50,000, and then you say they're making 50,000 salary, so that's before they take any taxes out or anything like that. So after taxes, they're probably making around 40,000. So if you look at it that way, and then you take out bills and stuff like that, a lot of people feel like they don't have enough money to invest. So if they're not investing, they're not having any money. So you have to find another way to make you a source of, you have to find another way to make you another source of income. So working a 9-to-5, like I said, in its own respective nature, can be beneficial if you're in the right position for it. But as I said, if you're only making that 40 or 50,000 range, you have to find another way to supply your income so that you can invest your money, so that it can grow, so that you can invest into these other assets. So now you have to find a different avenue. And there are plenty of different avenues and plenty of different, jobs out here that can get you into improving your income, as far as side jobs, side hustles. There are plenty of things. Investing is just one of the most common because it's something that is referred to by jobs. It's just a critical matter when it comes to it, because investing is just like the top tier where you can make money by just putting your money into something and watching it grow. One of the easiest ways that you can do it, because your money just sits and it grows over time. As long as you, like I said before, do your research and you study on it and you learn. A lot of people don't want to do it on their own. They have financial accountants, they financial people to help you with this stuff. But if you choose to do it on your own, just do your research and be cautious with what you're doing, because you definitely can make money from it, but you can definitely lose money. So just be cautious what you're investing in. Do your research before you invest, and also remember that on top of you investing, you do get money off of capital appreciation, but you also get money off of dividends. So just remember that. So just diversify your ways of making money. Everyone that's rich doesn't just have one source of income. They have multiple sources. So you have to diversify your way of making money. So you have to find ways out here to make more money. And there are plenty out here. You just have to do your research on it again. So once you find these ways and you diversify your income and you're bringing in more, you reinvest this same money that's coming in from different avenues to make it grow. Continuously keep growing. You don't ever want it to stop growing. You always want to keep it growing. Investing is such a broad word, and it accumulates to so many different assets that it can't really be broken down to the naked eye. So you have to really do your research. You really have to do your research to see what really are assets. Assets are things that are going to bring in money flow. So you're going to look for things that are going to bring in money. And there are so many different things that you can do besides just businesses that can bring in money. Last one on this list, that is probably one that I think everybody should know, is liabilities and assets, and what the difference is in between these two. So most of you probably heard about liabilities, and most of you probably heard about assets. For those who don't know, an asset is just something that brings in money, and a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. Two things alone are used to develop, your net income, or what they call it, your net worth. So how much you're worth in money terms. These are the two things that they use to determine what your net worth is. So like I said, again, liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket. So for those of you who don't know what liabilities are, that would be things such as a mortgage loan, a car loan, your bills, gas, things like that. Those are things that take money out of your pocket. And for those of you who are confused about the mortgage loan, how it is a liability, I know most of you are saying, but a house builds equity and then it gains value over time. While that is true, a mortgage is considered to be a liability because it's taking money out of your pocket. Now, if it was flipped and you were, for example, doing the house flip with it, and you were renting out a room, or you had a duplex and you rent out the other duplex, if you were renting the house or the duplex wherever you live, if you were renting it out, then it would be considered an asset because it's a new cash inflow. It's bringing money in. So in that point, it would be an asset and not a liability. But as long as you're staying there and you have to pay the mortgage, it's considered a liability. Same thing as a car loan. It's taking money out of your pocket. You have to pay, that car loan, that car insurance, the gas. Even if the car was paid off, you still got to pay for the gas. You still got to pay for insurance. So it's a liability. And now on the asset side, again, if you were to be renting your home out, it would be considered an asset. If you were to be renting your car out, for example, Turo, how people do it, Turo and Uber, your car would be considered as an asset because it's bringing in money. So you have to know how to separate yourself from liabilities and assets. Because if this list for you is just full of liabilities, if you just have a lot of liabilities, you're just taking money out of your pocket. You're not gaining anything from it. Versus if you have assets, you have money that's coming in consistently. And that's what you want, is money coming in consistently. You don't want to have a lot of liabilities and no assets, or a lot of liabilities and one asset. Like, it's not gonna, break even on any of those. So you want to also always remember that if you do have liabilities, you want your assets, to over appreciate them. You want to be making more money in assets to cover for those liabilities. So like I said, if you're paying a mortgage loan and a car loan, you want to have assets that are paying for that on top of you earned income. You want your residual income, which is those assets, to still be making money enough to pay for those liabilities. Because you don't want your list, like I said, you don't want your list to be full of liabilities. It's basically like just being in debt all your life, and that's something you don't want. You don't want to be in debt your whole life. You don't want to be paying credit card bills, school loans, house loans, car loans. You don't want to be paying that for the rest of your life. So you have to learn how to invest your money into assets that are going to bring money in to, pay those things off, or just not have them strictly at all. So that's something you want to look at and evaluate when you think about what are my liabilities and what are my assets, because you want to get rid of those. You don't want to have strict liabilities. You want to have you can have strictly assets, and you can have assets with liabilities, but just make sure the assets are overpowering the liabilities, because you want, at the end of the day, it's all about making money and growing your money and investing your money so that it continuously grows, so that way you don't have to work this 9 to 5. So that's the whole point of this, is to get rid of that and make a stable financial income so that you can provide for yourself. You don't have to work for anybody else, and that, your money can work for you. That is the main goal of all of this. I hope all of y'all learned something from this about personal finance. Like I said, again, I understand that it's not taught, and I understand a lot of people don't understand it. If you do have any questions, feel free to drop, a comment in the comment section. I don't mind answering questions, personal questions that you may have, anything like that. I'm here to help you. But I hope that you guys learned something, and I hope that you guys are able to understand that, as a whole, as personal finance goes, that's going to be very beneficial to you in order for you to grow, not only grow yourself and your mindset, but also grow the amount of money that you have over time, or even in a short period of time. The main purpose of all of this is really in order to just educate yourself on financial literacy and how to grow your money. Because a lot of, again, it's not taught, it's not brought up much, and it's expected to be taught by your parents, or, whoever's around you environmentally is expected to be taught by them, and not instead of in a school curriculum. So these are things that, where people like me are here to teach you about, so that you understand them and you can start using these in your everyday life, so that you can build yourself and build your wealth. But I hope that you guys have a nice and blessed day, and I'll see you on the next video.